and welcome to a special edition of Updog Sports Talk. This is a recorded episode that we're recording ahead of time, and you'll see it here Wednesday morning. We are going. We are in March Madness now. It has started, and it is one of the best times of the year. And here is your reminder that March Madness does not start with the NCAA tournament. In all reality, it's really a tournament of 300 something teams because these conference tournaments have begun this week and they are so much fun. And we are here today to break those down. I am joined by Bobby Wilson of the TNT College Football Podcast. You probably know him from his football takes, but guess what? This man has watched 1,000 college basketball games this year and is a former player, former coach. So he is going to be dropping a lot of knowledge for you today. Bobby, go ahead and introduce yourself further beyond the introduction I gave you already.
Well, thank you for that. And as always, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. I'll always say basketball is my first love. Even my wife would probably tell you that. And we met because of basketball because she played and all this and that. But so it's uh, like you said, I played, I coached. I was a college coach at the JUCO Division III level. I coached women's college basketball. I was an interim head coach at the college level. I was blessed to be in the positions I was in to coach the young ladies that I was able to coach. But then obviously as a player, I was extremely blessed in the situations that I was put in at the high school level, leading into the college level. I couldn't be more thankful for what God and basketball provided for me. Basketball got me through a lot in my life, and it's something that I'm so passionate about. Like you said, I watched my 1,000th game of the season. My wife probably hates that, but uh, I had knee surgery recently, so I've been down for a while since November, since the season really started. Honestly, a couple weeks into the season, I tore my knee up and was able to relax and watch a lot of basketball. And as a former coach, I watch games a little differently than most people do because I'm always looking for new things. If I ever get back into coaching, that I can implement and use. But yeah, a lot of, like you said, a lot of people know me for college football, TNT College Football podcast, just the amazing things that have happened on that end. But like I said, basketball will always be my first love.
Absolutely. And we're so glad to have you on here to really help drop some knowledge on us. So we are going to be going conference by conference here, starting with the America East and ending with the WAC. I will kind of introduce some favorites for the conference, and then we'll each pick a sleeper pick that we like in that conference, and then finally give our picks for that respective conference. We'll kind of do the power conferences just a little bit differently. I'm sure if you're tuning in here, you're probably aware who the favorites are in those conferences. So we'll jump right to the question of if there's a bid stealer hanging out in the midst of those conferences, and then who our pick is to win that conference tournament. So getting started here, we jump into the America East. Your favorites are very much what you're used to seeing, some names that you're very familiar with. The UMBC Retrievers are having an excellent year. They seem primed to grab the 1 seed. But Vermont, as always, is hanging around in there. They know how to win this tournament, and they've done it many times. Who is your sleeper, Bobby?
I guess if you're looking for a sleeper, I think there's a couple teams you could look at, like U Albany, historically another good program, but they've come on at the end of the year, started to play really well. Um, I've been impressed watching them down the stretch with some of the things that they can do. UMass Lowell has kind of come on as well. They kind of started a little rough, but they've also come on strong. And then a team that a lot of people probably aren't used to seeing up there, New Jersey Institute of Technology (NJIT), is a team that really, if you're looking for a Cinderella type story in a conference tournament, yeah, they're right now they'd be the 3 seed, so they're one of the favorites. But this is a program that has been the bottom of the barrel since they joined Division I. So it's really cool to see me and many others. I mean, you cheer for the underdog. You want to see those teams, and obviously UMBC is probably the biggest underdog maybe in the history of the sport or one of them. So you look at this conference. I mean, there's those historical teams like like you mentioned and I mentioned. I mean, you know what you're getting when you play Vermont. They're going to be it's going to be one of the toughest hard nosed games, the rock fight every time you play them, and that's just what they do. It's who they are. They struggled early. I believe they lost an exhibition to a Division III school to start the season, but obviously they picked it up. And you know, like I said, you know what you're getting when you play them. And UMBC has some really good athletes. They have a post player. His name's I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But this young man is very athletic. They got really good guard play as well. They're a fun team to watch.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely I noticed Albany's kind of nice little run here down the stretch. If I had to pick one sleeper, I would probably go with the Albany Great Danes in this one. But man, what an awesome story Midget is. Just having a very solid year. They're definitely a team I'm going to be rooting for in this tournament. Ultimately, my pick to win the American East Championship, I'm going to go with UMBC. Who is your pick?
I'm going to go with UMBC as well, just because they've been the most consistent team throughout the season, and I'm gonna assume that they're going to get the 1 seed, which then means that they're going to host. The American East does a great job with having their games be played on campus, which for their conference I think works perfectly. It doesn't work for everybody, obviously. For this conference, it works tremendously. I always love turning that game on early Saturday morning, the day before Selection Sunday. That's always the first game that's on is the American East Championship, and you know, like odds are you're going to see Vermont playing somebody, but it's 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 just always a really awesome, intense environment wherever it's at. So I'm going to go with UMBC though, definitely.
Yeah, that 11 a.m. Eastern tip is
Yes.
beautiful, and yeah, I mean, I have to remark one time quickly, just like the remarkable consistency of Vermont's program is really something to marvel at, especially in like a smaller conference, like a smaller budget. It's really impressive.
And it's only been under 2 head coaches. It's like Tom Brennan, and then I can't remember who their head coach is right now, but like the success that has been sustained under the coaches that they've had, and the fact that those coaches have stayed there for as long as they haven't left. Obviously, in Vermont, you're the show. I mean, there's not a college football program. There's well, not Division I, and then you like your their men's basketball team is the show, and their women's team's very good too. It, I think that really helps. Obviously, they have a huge following. Their fan base is always rocking in that gymnasium. It's just been really cool to see the success that they've sustained.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope one day like we start to see something like that for Maine or someone else, but we can jump over to remaining with the American theme here, the American Conference. There are definitely some really good teams here. Definitely a weird year just because the American is going to be a one bid league, unfortunately, but definitely no shortage of great teams. The South Florida Bulls, Tulsa, Wichita State, UAB are probably the teams you could probably consider to be the favorites here. Who would you look at as a potential sleeper in this conference tournament?
Well, I guess if Memphis could ever turn it on, I mean, you know that they have the pieces. I don't expect that to happen, but they definitely have what it takes to get it done. Now, obviously, they haven't proved that all year. If I'm going to go with somebody outside of that top four, I'd probably say Florida Atlantic, just because I feel like they can score at a high clip, and that's important in March, obviously. Defense wins championships, but we've seen that year in, year out. But at the end of the day, as well, I mean, we know what Florida Atlantic was under Dusty May. Yeah, they played really good defense, but they scored a ton of points too, and they had great players too. But I think that they're a team with the pieces that they have that they could make.
Yeah, they went through a rough stretch there for a little bit, but I could see them as a team that definitely has the upside to compete with some of these top teams. For me, I'm kind of looking at the Tulane Green Wave. Maybe Ron Hunter kind of pulls a little bit of
A little
March
more magic.
Madness here. Yeah, I kind of look at how when I was looking for this, just because the league has been so competitive, I kind of wanted to look at the road record here, and I like what Tulane has kind of done. Like they didn't show a giant home road split. They performed reasonably well on the road, so I thought maybe they're a team that could have a shot. So Tulane is my pick there. Personally, I think the champion's probably going to come from one of those top four. Who is your pick then to win the American?
I'm gonna say South Florida, just because of what I've seen them do throughout the season. I think they've been the most complete team throughout the year. They guard well. They can fill it up as well. They got really talented players. I love their coach. They do some great things there. But like you said, I think any of those other three teams could really get it done. I like UAB as well. I think that they have what it takes. Great coaching once again. They can score, they can fill it up, and do the things that they need to do as well. But yeah, I'd pick South Florida.
South Florida is a team that is going to be absolutely dangerous if they make the NCAA tournament. That is a team that has the ability to really compete with anyone. Definitely not a team that any five seed could be looking forward to.
Hmm.
So definitely that is a team to watch. That if you're looking, we're going to be talking about a lot of teams tonight, but that is the team to definitely circle as a dangerous one. That being said, you mentioned UAB. I'm going with the Blazers.
Okay.
I'm hoping, this isn't in their home arena. UAB has been tremendous in conference play outside of their own home arena for some reason. I mean, it isn't Birmingham, so there is a little bit of pause. Maybe it's too close to home for their magic to work. But UAB is undefeated on the road in in American play, but like has I think one or two wins at home. The most astounding home road split you'll ever see. But like you said, very well coached team. Kennedy knows how to win in this conference tournament. And again, like lots of talent too. Usually you expect to see UAB playing good ball around this time. He has to utilize the portal a lot just because they typically lose players. Usually by the end of the year is when you start to see those teams playing their best ball.
Absolutely. And like you said, Coach Kennedy does a great job, and he's able to get those guys to come together. And by the end of the year, they're meshing well. And like you said, the way their season has gone is bizarre. The way that they've just been able to win on the road and do the things that they need to do, and then not taking care of business at home, it's really odd. But they're a team that can catch fire. That's why I think that they're certainly in the mix when it comes to this conference championship.
Yeah, 100%. We move to the A10. We got really two favorites here. St. Louis, everyone's favorite player from 2 years ago, Robbie Avila, is with this team. I think a lot of people kind of forgot he's still in college, but he is still playing great ball. And in fact, now with a lot of guys around him, we are going to finally see him in the NCAA tournament. The VCU Rams are also one of the favorites here, but St. Louis is definitely by far the biggest favorite. Um, I think there's a pretty obvious sleeper in this one,
Yeah,
Bobby. I think we're on the same page.
yeah, I think so too. I mean, the Dayton Flyers, they're just one. They're a consistent program that you just know at the end of the year, Coach Grant is going to have them firing on all cylinders, and they are. They're playing some really, really good ball now. I would not be shocked one bit to see them Selection Sunday winning the A10 tournament and stealing a bid. It would not shock me.
Yeah, I agree. They're my sleeper pick as well. Just really firing on all cylinders down the stretch. And we knew this team had the talent. They looked like a team that was building that large resume there for a while, and then kind of just had that mid-season slump in A10 play that kind of took them out of it. But they are absolutely finishing the season strong. Definitely a team that if they go through with this and steal a bid, That this is another team that I don't think a higher seed's going to want to see. And I mean, in general, like Dayton is a program that always seems to make noise if they make the tournament.
Absolutely. They that program has that pedigree, and they've been there and done that. And it's what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. So who is your pick going to be for the A10 title?
Obviously, St. Louis and BCU are the two favorites, and I think obviously St. Louis is in. That's not a question. I think BCU should be in as well. I don't think they should be on the bubble. That's just my personal opinion. I think Dayton's going to win. I think they're firing on all cylinders. They're getting hot. They're peaking at the right time. And when a team is peaking at the right time with the talent that they have, you got to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go with St. Louis in this one just because it feels like anytime the A10 is a surefire team to make the tournament, usually that team wins to avoid any bid stealers. Because the A10 does the A10 thing and always tries to minimize the number of bids they put in the tournament. So I'm going to go with St. Louis in this one. And again, too, like very good team. They had to deal with the hot Dayton Flyers in UD Arena a few weeks ago. I think they learned some lessons from that, and they'll be ready to go for the conference tournament.
They're definitely built for it. That's
We,
for sure.
yeah, absolutely. Like that team's gonna be a lot of fun tournament play. I'm very excited.
Right. They're built
I'm
for it.
glad
They
that we
are.
don't have to sweat.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad we don't have to sweat that one out. It feels like they're pretty sure bid there.
hmm
We move to the ACC. Obviously we mentioned in the open, you probably know who the favorites are here. Do you see a bid stealer anywhere in this conference?
I don't really think so because I don't think anybody's going to be Duke. But to say that let's pick one. I know Cal's on the bubble. I know it's hard for them playing far away, but I like the pieces that they have. So they're a team I kind of look at as okay, they're on the bubble. They keep going from first four in, first four out, depending on who you look at. I think they're a team that could make a run in this tournament to put themselves in a position where they're definitively in the tournament. I'm not going to say they're going to win, but I think that they could get to say the semifinals. And if they get to the semifinals, I would say that they're absolutely in the NCAA tournament at that point. So I know I'm not necessarily answering the question per se because I don't think anybody's going to beat Duke at all. I think it's pretty clear that Duke is definitively the best team in this conference and arguably the country potentially. But if I'm looking at a team that could solidify a spot, I think it's the Cal Golden Bears if they play to the level that they're capable.
Yeah, and it's been great seeing Cal like get back to playing competitive basketball. That program was down in the dumps for a long time. So even being in this discussion is really great for that program. But I agree with you. I don't see a bid stealer here just because Duke is too good to let one of them through. Um, so yeah, I think it feels like they're going to run away with this thing. I mean, they just beat NC State on the road by 30 tonight. So um,
Yeah, they're just
yeah,
killing everybody in conference play. I mean, North Carolina we know is going to be competitive and good. Like it's arguably the biggest rivalry, so you know that game's going to be close. But I mean, they just killed Virginia. They killed NC State. They're just destroying everybody in the conference. So I just can't see it happen.
yeah, an absolute wagon right now.
Yes.
Um, we move to the A Sun, where we have like Central Arkansas trying to compete with their first ever tournament bid, stole the one seed there at the last moment, and then Austin P, who really ran the conference all year, one bad week put him as two. These
hmm
two feel like they are um, very, very good teams that could win this conference. But who do you see as maybe a sleeper? Because the A Sun, this is one of those conference tournaments that can get crazy.
Absolutely, and I love the new setup that they have for the conference tournament. I think it's great. It kind of stinks it's going to go away from the home venues, but going to Jacksonville is a really cool setup for them. everybody's in the tournament playing against each other. I think it's a cool setup that they're going to have. Looking at it, I think Lipscomb, personally, to me, is probably the team I could see making a run because they know who they are. They can shoot it well. They defend really well. They're not as athletic as some of these other teams, but they do things the right way. They're well coached. They just have really good, smart players who play the right way, and they could catch fire. I think Florida Gulf Coast is another team who got hot at the end of the year. You could potentially see. We know that they've had magic in March before, so it'd be interesting to see as that conference tournament gets underway here in the next couple days if they make some noise as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Lipscomb is a team I was looking at as well. I'm also not going to rule out the Jacksonville Dolphins making a run because this is in their hometown. Definitely a little bit of advance there, and also just because like all of these teams are very good at the offensive end, but sometimes can be vulnerable on the defensive side of the ball. So really, like anyone that hits their shots in this tournament could end up being the one that runs away with it. So it's definitely going to be really intriguing. With that being said, who is your pick to win it?
I'm gonna go with Austin P just because they proved it throughout the conference slate. Yes, they had one bad week to end the season, but to me, they're the best defensive team in the conference. And like you're saying, a lot of these teams can score at a high level, and defense wins in March. And I think that they're going to lock down. I think Central Arkansas is an amazing story. The way that they've really just fought through this conference slate and really just kind of dominated at a really high level. I give them so much credit, and I think it'd be great if they made the tournament. Obviously, it'd be the first time ever. I just see Austin P like they lost that game last week to them. I think they're going to be ready to get back. It's a get back game for them.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I think Austin P is going to be pretty determined coming into the tournament to get the bad taste out of their mouth after rough last week. I got to go with them as well. I think Colin Parker, he is the best player in the conference. Again, Central Arkansas winning would be so cool because they've never made it before. Kind of been a long journey for them, so it would be really cool to see them break through and get in there. But Austin P at the same time, they haven't been in a while either, so they're also a great story. I got to go with the Govs in this one.
Absolutely.
We go to the side. um, we go to the Big 12. Do we see a bid stealer here?
No, I think I think the teams that are kind of set in that conference. I mean, we know the top 5 or 6 teams in that league are amazing. I think if you watch this tournament from the quarterfinals on, you're going to see fantastic basketball. Um, UCF has been such an amazing story this year. The wins that they've been able to get over Kansas, and there was another one that's slipping my mind. But man, what a good job Coach Dawkins has done there. They just won at BYU and they controlled that game. They were up by I want to say like 30 points. It was an unbelievable performance. I guess if I'm looking at a team that could maybe fight their way in, I think that we all agree that Arizona, Houston, Texas Tech, Iowa State, Kansas, UCF, BYU are all in. I think TCU's in as well. West Virginia might be. We'll see. But if there's a team on the outside, maybe Cincinnati, they're 500 in conference play. They just had a big win at Duke, I'm sorry, at Kansas, and let's see if they can they're kind of playing well at the right time. They're getting hot when you need to. They're peaking at the right time. Could they make a run to say the conference semifinals? They would have beat probably 2 of the highly ranked teams to get to the semifinal. Does that put them in the tournament? I think it's quite possible. If you're 500 in the Big 12 and you make a deep run in the Big 12 tournament, I think that puts them in a position to solidify a spot in the tournament. And I think that would technically be a bid stealer because right now they're on the outside looking in. I don't think they're going to win the tournament, but I think that they could work their way in.
Yeah, yeah. It's just hard to get a bid stealer in this conference, not because like because like you looked at like the ACC, like there was Duke and a few other good teams and stuff, but man, you go to the Big 12, like you've got like six elite teams.
Hmm.
I mean, that's just like you can upset one of them, but then still like you have to get through more. So
Right.
it's just really difficult. Like these are some of the best teams in college basketball, all reside in the Big 12. So yeah, who is your pick to win the comp?
Like, would it shock anybody if a Final Four consisted of four Big 12 teams? I don't think that would be absolutely outrageous to say at all.
I agree with that completely.
But to answer your question, if I have to pick one team, I'm going to say Arizona. I think they've been the most complete team in the conference all year. When they're healthy, there's not too many teams in the country that can beat them. I would probably say when they're healthy, I would look at Duke and Michigan as like the only teams that could probably beat them. I mean, I know there's teams in the conference that potentially could. I mean, like we said, this conference is legit. But I'm going to go Arizona just because you look at them and you just say, where I know they don't shoot the ball necessarily well from deep, but they don't need to because they just, just dominate inside. And then they run out and you just get layups after layups because they're very very good defensively. They're just like I said, when they're on, they got multiple NBA first round picks on this team, and I know other teams in this conference do too. But I'm going Arizona.
Yeah, that is a really good team. Just for the sake of picking another team here, I'm going to go with Houston. The big thing with the Cougars is defense and rebounding. That is a style of play that really, always resonates in conference tournament play on a neutral site. I think that's going to be big for Houston in this. My one area of concern is sometimes they may go a little too cold offensively, but I'm going to pick them to win this one.
When you guard at the rate that they can guard, you can go a little cold sometimes because you know you're going to get stopped.
Yeah, absolutely. They are relentless on the defensive side of the ball. It's beautiful to watch when you enjoy that style of basketball.
Absolutely.
The Big East. Do we see a potential bid stealer here? We have three teams that are for sure making the tournament. Is there a team out there that can make it four?
I don't think so. If there is one, it'd be Seton Hall, but I just don't think that they could beat either of the top two for sure. UConn, I know I'm biased. Everybody knows me for UConn football. And when you follow UConn football, cover UConn football, you have to know and talk about UConn basketball as well. Obviously, they can score at a high level. They defend at an extremely high level. Multiple NBA draft picks. They feature, I'll say, NBA coach, great coach in Coach Hurley. Whether you like him or not, he's a great coach. Um, but no, I don't think anybody outside of the top three is going to win this thing. If it is somebody, it'd be Seton Hall. Um, the story of DePaul is fantastic. I would love to see them somehow make a run. Just what a great job that Coach Holtman's done there with that program to kind of raise them from the ashes, let's say. But yeah, I just don't think anybody is going to get past. Let's say you got to get past say Villanova, and then you got to go beat St. John's or UConn. I don't think any.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and they haven't been all year. Definitely a lot of teams that we're used to seeing play good basketball kind of struggling a little bit this year. Um, that being said, I'll throw Creighton as in the mix as a potential one, just because like they have a group of transfers. I mean, they at some point maybe like they had the game at UConn where they won. So that upside does exist with them. They didn't maintain any momentum since then, so it's a real long shot. But that might be the team that's the upside to really all of a sudden go on a run here. Um, but who's your pick to win this comp?
I'm gonna say UConn. One, I almost feel like I have to, but two, I think their performance against St. John's. was the performance that Husky fans have been looking for, to finally go out and defeat a team, a very, very good team, and to do it in the convincing fashion that they did. Now, with that said, St. John's is going to be extremely motivated to get them back. They'll be in their home arena, obviously the best arena on the planet, Madison Square Garden. So you know they're going to be motivated, ready to go. They're going to give them their best, obviously. But I think UConn's peaking at the right time. And I think we'll see that in the conference tournament heading into March. I know they're trying to play for a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, and I think that's going to fire them up.
Yeah, I agree. I've got to go with UConn as well. I'm not going to be foolish enough to pick against Dan Hurley in March.
Absolutely.
Going to a more competitive league, we go to the Big Sky, and figuring out like who to put in the favorite section here is really difficult because even there's some games currently. We're recording this on Monday, and there's still some games ongoing right now that could change where the seeding ends up in this conference. I'll go ahead and throw Portland State, Montana State, Eastern Washington, and Montana as maybe your favorites here. Montana mostly because of historical performance in this tournament. I think they lost again tonight. Who is a sleeper team that you like here?
Northern Colorado, they really came on strong to end conference play here. They had a fantastic non-conference, and it was really unfortunate to see how they started conference play because this was a team like yeah they're gonna win 20 games this year, but this is a team like with the way that they played in the non-conference that could have seen like a 28 win type season if they really continued that clip. They're starting to play better at the right time. I know they just lost to Eastern Washington, but the Big Sky tournament, this is a tournament year in, year out that just, you never know what's going to happen because this league is so competitive that anybody can beat anybody on any given.
Yeah, Starch Madness is always just an entertaining show. Like this is one of the hardest tournaments to pick because, like you said, like it is so competitive every single year. You just never know. You never know what's going to happen in this league. Yeah, leaving Northern Colorado out of the favorites actually kind of feels a little bit foolish now because I got Idaho and Eastern Washington on right now. I just saw that Northern Colorado beat Montana by 30 tonight, so they are looking very strong. So I kind of felt like an easy pick there, but I got to go with Northern Colorado as a sleeper as well. Quinn Decker is one of the best players in the conference. And like you said, like this team played very well in the non-conference. Just very weird start to conference play, but they are back to that high level the rest of the way here. Maybe with Idaho being Eastern Washington at the moment, maybe I'll throw the Vandals in there as a team that could potentially maybe upset some teams as well. Now, who's your pick to win this conference?
I also want to add that like Tony and Coach who broadcast, uh, they do the Weber State games, but they also do Starch Madness, are arguably my favorite group of broadcasters in the country that most people don't know about. Tony has so much knowledge. He does such a great job, and I've had some really good conversations with him through social media. And then Coach, if you just listen to him, he is hilarious because he's just old school. And he just throws out some of those old singers that just have you rolling. Like he knows what he's talking about too. It's not just like some old guy just spewing nonsense. Like they are a great pair, and I love it. I love watching this tournament, partially because of them, but also because of the brand of basketball that's played. I'm gonna actually say I'm picking Northern Colorado.
I gotta keep this tangent. Sorry, I gotta keep this
Yeah,
tangent going for a moment here. Yeah, those two are absolutely some of my favorites. And also, actually, before we got on to record, I have to mention Mitch Stroman, another legendary Big Sky commentator. From the Northern Arizona broadcast. His last broadcast was tonight, and it was pretty emotional hearing it. He was his voice is one of my favorites, and his excitement for the game is very good. I mean, the
yeah.
Big Sky really really has the market here and great commentators. Like you're listening to an ESPN broadcast, like usually these Big Sky ones are very entertaining.
I agree. Couldn't agree more. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Northern Colorado to kind of make some noise. You always see in this tournament that like there's some upsets and crazy things that happen. Northern Colorado's peaking at the right time. They can score at such a high level, and I think that that matters in March. Obviously, they have really good guard play, so I'm going with them.
I'm going to go with someone else that's been heating up down the stretch here. And historically, in the recent years, has done very well in Starch Madness. The Montana State Bobcats. This is a team that, even despite some coaching changes throughout the years, they have managed to just performed very well in this tournament. Loki, their coach, has done a great job here. So I got to ride with the Bobcats. They are one of the hotter teams down the stretch. And, Portland State was probably my pick for a while, but
Yep.
the last couple weeks have been kind of off for them.
Yeah, I mean they have all the pieces. Like they're super, super athletic. They can score. They can defend because of how athletic they are. But like you said, they just have not. It's just not clicking right.
Yeah, and this is not the time of the year you want that to happen. So it feels like the Starch Madness might end up taking them up, and we'll see how the results end up tonight if they keep that one seed or not. But the one seed has been generally pretty cursed in Starch Madness.
Hmm. You almost don't want it.
Yeah, I know. Like you're almost better off being like a 4 or 5 for some
Yep.
reason. Like
Yeah.
it's so strange, but so entertaining. This conference just always delivers.
It is. It
Um,
does.
yeah. The Big South. We have two very obvious favorites here. High Point and Winthrop have been really those top two teams for such a long time this year. High Point's only loss in conference play was to Winthrop. But is there any sleeper in the mix that you kind of like outside of those two?
I like Charleston Southern actually, and they're going to be they're a lower seed. They're a 7th seed, but they just beat Winthrop. They just beat them the other day, and I watched parts of that game, and I was very impressed by them. And I've watched a handful of their games throughout the season as well. They had a really solid non-conference, and they started off really poorly in the conference schedule, which was unfortunate because if you know Charleston Southern, they don't have the resources that the rest of, and of course the Big South in general doesn't have those resources, but Charleston Southern definitely doesn't. So it was really cool to see them play to the level that they played at in the non-con. I just think the guard play that they have, the way that they can shoot the ball really well, they can catch fire. I really do. I firmly believe that they're going to upset Winthrop in that first game that they play in the conference tournament. Um, we'll get to who my pick is in a moment, but I'm very impressed by that.
Ooh, that is our first. I think that's our first big bold upset pick. Charleston Southern over Winthrop. And actually, like I see a lot of what you're talking about there. Like they were, like you said, performed very well in the non-conference, and even in those struggles in conference play, I noticed they lost a lot of close games. Just couldn't quite close it. And then finally, at the end of the year, maybe that's the moment where it clicks for them. They closed out that game against Winthrop. So that's definitely a team I got my eye on as well. But to go for another pick here, Bedford is a team I kind of like. First year head coach there. Um, Kind of runs a little bit of a different style on defense. They're very aggressive, try to force turnovers. Could always be something that could be scary in the tournament setting if they get hot from three and can force some of those turnovers. Maybe Radford makes some noise.
As a coach who ran that type of defense as well, like myself, I am a huge fan of that as well. They do a really good job with it. Like you said, if they can have that defense lead to offense and catch fire, they can absolutely make a run.
Yeah, 100%. And that definitely would be a lot of fun to see. So who's your pick to win the conference?
I mean, High Point, it has to be. And I think for the sake of March Madness as well, for the tournament sake, I think it'd be great if they won because this is a team that nobody is going to want to play. They obviously have had an amazing season. They're 27-4 for goodness sake. They're 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 a wagon. I mean, they have just really taken care of business throughout the year. And trust me, nobody wants to play them. Nobody wants to see when the seeds come out, High Point right next to them. That's a team that can absolutely get an upset.
Yeah, yeah. This is one of those. This is another one of those teams. Circle it here. High Point is a very dangerous one. They really kind of had to start everything all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Their coach went to become coach in waiting at Creighton. Finn Clayman takes over as a head coach. I think it was something like 11 new players. Kind of saw some glitches early. Some of those four losses were at home, which is very odd. But man, down the stretch, excuse me, down the stretch, they have absolutely dominated. And I think this team is even more dangerous than the one that pushed Purdue last year.
Mm-hmm.
So again, circle this one. That High Point is another dangerous team, potentially dangerous team in March Madness. And that's not to discredit Winthrop at all, too. Obviously, some people may forget Winthrop should have beat Arkansas this year on the road. Like they had them beat and let that one kind of slip away in heartbreaking fashion. They're a team too that could be dangerous if they make it because they could take the lessons they learned from.
Absolutely.
We go to the Big Ten. Is there a bit stealer here?
I don't necessarily think so. I think it's pretty clear cut who the definitive top teams are, and I think this is another conference where you look at the top of it. Could you see four Big Ten teams make the Final Four? I think that's not out of the question either. I think it'd be a little more far fetched than say the Big 12, but it wouldn't shock me if it happened. Um, you look at it, I think the teams that are in. I think Ohio State kind of, I don't want to say cemented themselves being in with their victory over Purdue, but I think they made a good case, taking care of business there. I think Purdue's pulling a usual Purdue where they're not peaking when they're supposed to be. It just seems to happen like that for them. I guess if there's a team that you look at that could potentially be a bid stealer, I know Indiana's right on the fringe. Can they get in? Can they get not? If they win a couple games here in the tournament, I think they can cement themselves being in. USC just lost arguably their best player. I think they're kind of done. And I think the rest of the league from the bottom there, I just don't think they can make a run. I don't. So I really don't think there's a bid stealer in this league.
Yeah, I think nowadays with like the enormous size of the Big Ten, usually about nine of those teams are already going to make the tournament and stuff. Like the days of seeing a bid stealer in the Big Ten may be over. I don't know if we're ever
Right.
going to see one again. So who's your pick to win the conference tournament?
Well, very, 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 very biased here, but Michigan. And even with my bias, I think it's clear that they are the class of the conference. I think they're arguably the best team in the country. I know they just lost to Duke, but I think that loss is going to help them moving forward. I think they're going to be extremely motivated. This is arguably the deepest team in the country, and I know they just lost a player to a torn ACL, but they they're just so deep and they're so talented. It's unbelievable, really. Um, I'm not picking against um, the, my team. I'm not going to do it, and especially with how good they are, I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah. I before I went to college, like I grew up rooting for Ohio State, so I have every reason not to pick Michigan, but I'm going to pick Michigan. This team is just too good. They are, like you said, absolutely loaded. Um, going to be very difficult to stop in this tournament and the NCAA tournament.
They just don't. I mean, and I know the Duke game, some of the things might have been exposed, like Mar got into foul trouble, and that really affected them. They didn't shoot the ball well, but that's not normal for them. Like they defend at an elite level and they score at an elite level. I think we're going to see Duke and Michigan play again in the NCAA tournament. That's just my personal opinion. Whether that's a Final Four or the national championship, we'll see. But show me where there's a weakness on this team, and then we can talk.
Yeah, 100%. We go to the Big West. Now, this is a conference we love to talk about. Some of the favorites is kind of difficult for me to figure out there for a moment, but I mean, Hawaii and UC Irvine are two of the obvious favorites, but UC San Diego's kind of gotten hot down the stretch. They won the conference tournament last year, so I'm going to go ahead and put them as a favorite as well. Who do you see as a sleeper pick in this conference?
I agree. UC San Diego's really turned it on, and they can absolutely make noise in this tournament. Hawaii has struggled with them. When they play Irvine, it's always an intense battle. Santa Barbara has the pieces. Like Aiden Mahaney's been there and done that as a player, but they, for whatever reason, they just always seem to like fall short. I don't know why it is, but they just always seem to. I guess if I'm not picking from one of the top five, UC Davis is extremely well coached by Jim Les. Played at Bradley. I live just down the street from Bradley. That's why I'm wearing Bradley gear. But they just don't have enough size. I don't feel like to compete with some of these teams in the league. But I think Jim Les can put them in a position where they can make noise in this tournament. So if I'm going to pick a team that's outside of that core group, that's who I would go with.
That would be pretty fascinating too. UC Davis on their way to the Mountain West next year, winning this on their way out. But I'm saying in the top five for my sleeper. Cal State Northridge is a team that I'm kind of looking at as like a potential sleeper pick here. Kind of they just lost at home to UC Irvine in the key game, but the Matadors have been very inconsistent. But when they are on, they are one of the best teams in this conference.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if they get hot for the tournament, maybe they can make that run. We'll have to see. But who is your pick to win it?
Well, I'll piggyback off your Northridge, your CSUN. They play basically positionless basketball, and when they catch fire, like they're so hard to guard because they're just get to the basket, get to the basket, get to the basket. And then you have Larry Hughes second who can shoot and do stuff off the dribble. And they are just so athletic, it's insane. But again, it's like they're very very inconsistent. But for my pick, I'm probably the biggest Hawaii fan in the state of Illinois. I am. It's just I love watching this team play. I personally love Aranganat as a coach too. I think he just runs some. I love the defensive tenacity that they play with, and that he has them playing at right now, especially as well. The issue with them is they don't shoot three particularly well, which in March can hurt you. And they have lost both their point guards. First, Cuff has been out the whole season. And then Aaron Hunkin Clater has been the point guard all year up to the last month or so, where he suffered a foot injury. So Hunter Erickson has had to do a ton when it comes to being a point guard, and that's maybe not his natural state. But find me a better athlete than Dre Bullock. He's the type of guy that I'm really hoping gets an opportunity to be in the NCAA dunk contest during the Final Four weekend, because this young man is one of the best athletes I've ever seen. He can do things that wow you. And again, I love watching this team. I love Isaac Big Fish Johnson when he's on and when he's clicking. He's a 7-footer that can stretch out and shoot. He can take you off the dribble. He's a pretty good defender. He's the best free throw shooter, I believe, in the conference. They're just a really, really solid team, and I enjoy watching them, and I'm going to go with them to win the league.
Yeah, I'm rooting for that as well. Probably the biggest Hawaii fan in Ohio. But yeah, that's and you got some March experience there with Isaac the Big Fish Johnson. He had some big games for Utah State the last couple of years. That was a huge pickup for Hawaii this past offseason. But I'm going to go a different route here. This tournament does not take place on the island, unfortunately. It takes place in California, and I got to go with the defense of UC
Vegas,
Irvine.
Vegas, actually.
Oh wait, Vegas. My bad. Missed that. But yeah, I don't know why I thought California. Anyways, but yeah, I got to go with UC Irvine in this one. The Anteaters. This team, what this team's going to give you on defense, and that plays very well.
Russell Turner, their coach, is one of the best coaches in the country that probably most fans don't know about. His teams every year are elite defensive teams. They should have made the NCAA tournament last year. It was a travesty that they didn't. They played in the NIT championship. That game, first of all, one of the best games I've ever seen. Them in Chattanooga, but like you know what you're getting, and they're going to be extremely, extremely motivated too, since they didn't make the tournament last year.
Yeah, yeah, I think they're ready for a little bit of a revenge tour here. Now, this is another fun league to watch, the CAA. Probably two teams that really separate themselves. UNC Wilmington and Charleston. They played an epic game on Sunday. Who do you see as the potential sleeper?
This is a conference where most people have probably not seen them because of the wonderful flow sports. If I had to pick somebody outside of the top two, I'm gonna excuse me. I'm gonna I'm gonna say two. Hofstra and Drexel. They both kind of play the same way. They can catch fire. They're athletic. They got good guard play. I could see both of them making noise, and I think this is also a tournament where sometimes you don't see the favorites win in advance, just because this league is so competitive. I think Wilmington. I mean, yeah, Charleston just beat them, but I think Wilmington has kind of set themselves apart throughout conference play, and I know they've kind of they only have a half game lead right now over Charleston, but I think that Wilmington's kind of set themselves, like I said, apart, um, and I think that they can make noise, of course. But I can't really pick anybody outside of that top four, honestly. If I'm being honest, I just don't think that any of those teams can make that deep of a run um, to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty difficult. I mean, there's a couple that I kind of see that may have the upside a little bit. William and Mary is kind of they have a funny matchup with UNC Wilmington. UNC Wilmington, five total losses this year. Two of them are to William and Mary. Um, the Tribe play a very fun style of basketball. One of the original members of the Never Made the Tournament Club, so it'd be pretty cool if they made it happen. They're a potential sleeper that I'm going to kind of throw out there. Then Monmouth as well. I think King Rice has really had those guys playing really well down the stretch. They're a team. I don't know if they have the upside to compete with UNC Wilmington, but they're a team I'm watching.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, William and Mary, it's so hard to beat a team three times. That's why I didn't necessarily mention them. But the story of them not making the tournament ever is something that they should make a 30 for 30 on because they've been around for so long. But you're right though. I mean, they could make a run. I probably should have mentioned them, but yeah,
Who is your pick to win it?
Wilmington. I firmly believe that they have everything it takes to get back to the tournament, and I think they can make noise in the tournament if they're there, depending on the matchup, of course. But I think that they're going to give whoever, if they win this, I think they're going to give whoever they play in the big tournament all they can ever.
Yeah, agreed. I've got to go with UNC Wilmington as well. Just a very, very good team. And again, like you said, like this team that made the tournament last year. They got dealt a tough hand with the matchup too. They ended up being a 14 seed, had to play a really good Texas Tech team in the first round, and they pushed them all the way. They were right there in that matchup the whole time. So one more year. of tournament experience. Maybe they're ready to pull the upset this time. Um, maybe you're not circling this team in pen, but maybe in pencil. I think they're definitely a team to watch. It's gonna be very interesting. We go to Conference USA. For a long time, it felt like this favorite section was going to be very small, but Liberty has kind of started to stumble down the stretch, and some teams are coming on hot. Western Kentucky obviously made a statement winning big at Liberty, but quietly, Sam Houston is actually the hottest team in the conference. So those are probably who I would put as the favorites right now. Who is maybe another sleeper team hanging out there?
I think Kennesaw State can make noise. They just they play hard nosed basketball. They defend at a high level, and I think that they could. They obviously they gave Liberty everything the other night. So I think that this is a team that can certainly make noise. They're well coached. I like to watch them play because they just play the way that I like basketball to be played. Um, so yeah, I'll say the Owls.
Yeah, the Owls are a very fun team to watch. And now you have me wondering if I should just throw them in the favorites as well because they're my sleeper pick as well. For all the reasons that you just said, this team is a very tough one to go up against in a one and done tournament setting. So, going to be very interesting. Who is going to be your pick to win Conference USA?
I'm going to say Western Kentucky because they're peaking at the right time. Liberty has dominated the league through the whole season, and they've stumbled here recently. And it's kind of unfortunate because they are a very solid basketball team, and they're very well coached by Richie McKay. But they're just, I don't feel like they're peaking right now. I feel like they might have already done that, which is an issue in March, obviously. So I'm going to go Western Kentucky with a very also, I want to look at Sam Houston too because that's a really good basketball team too. I know a lot of people might not have watched Conference USA this year. This league is very competitive. I know Liberty has kind of been the top team all year, but we've kind of seen them come down um, to the rest of the conference. Let's say recently, but the rest of this league, this is a really solid basketball conference. I know a lot of people look at it from a football perspective and kind of mock it a little bit, but this league is very well put together.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, you even look at like New Mexico State, for example. Like, they picked up a quality win, beating New Mexico, performed very well in non-conference, and then they got to conference play and really struggled. Lost a lot of close games, and that's how a lot of these games are. A lot of them are tight. Really can't rule out the field here, but you know what? I'm going to go with Sam Houston. I'm going to go with the Bearcats to get it done and win this conference, make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I'm there with
This
you. I think they're good.
Yeah, 100%. And again, like, peaking in March is very important. Right now, this team is playing good basketball at the right time. The Horizon League is next. Definitely one of my favorite conferences to talk about. Obviously, I think we talked off air. Saw an absolute thriller on Saturday with Wright State and NKU. Wright State, Robert Morris, and of course, can't rule out Oakland. Those are probably the favorites, but the horizon is gonna horizon, as they say. So who's a sleeper team that could take advantage of some chaos?
Man, who isn't? I mean, we know who's not. It won't be IU Indy because they lost tonight.
Goodbye,
but
IU and D.
I want to say Oakland was in my final two when it came to my choice for college. It was between Oakland and Grand Valley. I decided on Grand Valley. So I have a special place in my heart for Coach Campy and the Grizzlies. But I also consider Detroit Mercy. And to see what they've done this year, Coach Montgomery, and how he's kind of risen that program up from a very, very bad spot, if we're being completely honest, I think that they can make a run. I've been very, very impressed watching them throughout this season. a lot of local guys, which being a guy from Flint, Michigan, in the Detroit area, I love to see. I love seeing the Michigan talent do great, and Oakland has that as well. If we're looking for a sleeper, I'm going to go with Detroit, just because I guess you could say the one thing going against them, they haven't been here in a while in a position where they're an upper echelon team in the league. But for me, it's just a great story.
Yeah, yeah, it's a really awesome story, and I'm very happy for that team. Like, I ended up seeing them on one of their worst nights, but you could still tell like this team has some guys that can fill it up. Like Orlando Lovejoy and TJ Nadeau are guys who can hit from anywhere. They got some really good rebounders inside. You can tell that Mark Montgomery really prioritizes that. So definitely a team to watch there. I promise I'm not being biased because they have been really good to us, but NKU is a team that I'm looking at as a potential sleeper. Darren Horn has a really good history of performing well in this tournament. His zone defense can be very difficult to go up against in a tournament setting. I think if they can just get past this tough opener on the road at Oakland, which, the last time they played them, that game was pretty much a wash because NKU was down three of their top seven guys. So, they are kind of the underseeded team in a tight conference because of that terrible, rough, like injury ridden 3 week stretch. But I think come the conference tournament, this team usually always knows how to turn it on. So they're kind of someone I admire.
Absolutely, another team that's very well.
Yeah, absolutely. And LJ Wells is definitely a rarity in college basketball these days. A really good player that spent 4 years at the same school at a Horizon League program. Like you just don't see that very often. Darren Horn mentioned that quite a bit in his post game press conference. Like, I think he kind of probably felt. I mean, he doesn't show it, but he probably felt a little bit emotional about it because that was his last home game. So LJ Walls is a special story. It would be pretty cool to hear more of the nation learn about him. But he's also a guy that really gives the Norse a shot.
Mm-hmm.
So going to the picks here, who do you have winning this one?
I'm gonna say Robert Morris on a 7 game winning streak. I love the way that they can score the ball, getting to the basket. They can shoot it as well. I think they're hot right now, and they have all the pieces that it takes to win in March.
Yeah, absolutely. And they just did it last year too. So definitely a team that knows how to win in this tournament. And definitely was a pick that I was highly considering, but this is the Horizon League. There's no way that we could both pick the same team to win this conference.
Right.
I'm gonna go with Wright State. Wright State has been really good all year. I got to see in person just how this, the championship makeup of this team, just because like, down 18 at halftime in a game that honestly, like, other than pride, there wasn't anything on the line. They still kept charging, even as NKU responded. They still kept charging, and came back and won that game. And that just goes to show like this team has a lot of pride and they play really well. TJ Birch is an absolute thief out there. Like he became a problem in the second half of that game, and won defensive player, Horizon League defensive player of the year for good reason. I mean, he is incredible. But this is a team that shares the ball, and really, like anybody could beat you on a given night.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But like you said, this league is always gonna. You never know.
Yeah, my pick could go down the window right away. With tonight's result, they're going to play Cleveland State. And do not forget, Cleveland State won at Wright State earlier this year. So that game is not a gimme by any means. But it'll definitely be interesting just to kind of watch because it's a very, very interesting bracket this year. With, they had to play a game tonight, then we go to a regular tournament, but then they take the bottom two seeds and have them play at Indy. and then reseeded again. And
It's
it's a
interesting.
very interesting format.
It is.
We go from the most interesting format to the most basic one, the Ivy League 14 tournament. Yale and Harvard are probably the favorites here. Do you think any of the other two could be a potential sleeper?
Um, Penn could. Penn has an opportunity. Like Coach McCaffrey's obviously been there and done that. They have guys that can shoot it. And they have good post play as well. So I think that there's a potential for Penn to make the noise. And like you just got to win 2 games. It's not like you got to go through this gauntlet of winning 4 games in 4 days or whatever. You just got to win 2 games. So, and I know it's going to be at Cornell, and see, probably shouldn't throw them out of it either. I mean, you're at home. You're going to have your fans there. Like they got a real opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Cornell is a very good sleeper pick because, yeah, they're at home. They just beat Yale at home on Friday. But you know what? I got to go with Fran McCaffrey and his fighting Quakers as well. Actually, Fran McCaffrey as the coach of the Quakers is a very ironic thing that's actually kind of just hitting me right now. That is absolutely hilarious. And I don't think a lot of people realize that Fran McCaffrey is with this program right now. What March fun it would be if they were to win this conference tournament, and also we'll go, oh, that's where he is.
You know that's what most of the country will be doing.
Absolutely. They'll be like, oh, whoa, look at this. Oh, man. But yeah, they very quietly have finished really well down the stretch, too. So definitely a team to watch there. Who's your pick to win it?
I'm a huge Tommy Amaker fan. He offered me in high school. I love him. But I am going to say Yale because I think they have everything that it takes, all the pieces. I think that they can win in March. We've seen them do it before too in the NCAA tournament. This is just a team that has all the right pieces to make noise, not only in the Ivy League tournament, obviously, but in the big tournament as well.
Yeah, agreed. I have a hard time picking against Yale as well. I think the Bulldogs will go and win this one. Um, we go to this is always fun. They even made a bit about it, but I always like to pronounce it the MAC. It's gonna be there. They're gonna be changing that name soon, but yeah, the MAAC, two A's, not one A. The favorites here: Merrimack, St. Peter's, and Siena. Who do you see as a potential sleeper? And I think there's a pretty decent field to pick from here in this one.
There really is. I think any of the top 6, honestly, in this league have a real opportunity. I like Quinnipiac, uh, but Quinnipiac also loses games that they shouldn't lose either. And every game they play is close. Um, so maybe that's good in March though. So you're used to playing in close games, and so maybe that's why I'm going to go with them here. But I love the pieces that they have, and I know that they've been so close for the past couple of years of being that team to get in the tournament. So maybe that motivation gets them to that next spot to make that jump. But like I said, I think any of the top 6 in this league really have an opportunity. And even when I say that, like Fairfield's got 19 wins, so it's like this is an extremely competitive league. It's very very.
Yeah, it's a really strong league this year. I think it kind of went a little bit under the radar, but definitely a lot of very solid teams. Quinnipiac is actually the one that I had circled as my sleeper as well. It'd be kind of ironic if the several times like they've been the one seed and lost, but this time they're somewhere around like a five and end up winning it. It would just be so perfect. But yeah, definitely I like them. Marist is another team you have to consider, but definitely again like a very good group. And of course, like Iota always seems to find their way, and they're probably going to be an eight seed in this thing.
Right.
Yeah. So who's your pick?
think Merrimack has been the top team. I mean, they've been the top team all year, and I think it'd be a great story. It'd be their first year, first time ever making the NCAA tournament. But this league, like the one seed, hardly ever wins. So I'm going to go with Siena and fighting Jerry McNamara's. Um, I, I've watched them a handful of times this year, and their guard play sticks out to me. I think they have what it takes in March to make the noise that they need to make. Like we said, I mean, this league has been so competitive this year, and under the radar, like you said, I couldn't agree more. But I'm going to go with the Saints to pull it off.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a little bit since they've been in the tournament too, so it'd be pretty fun to see them make a return. I'm gonna go with St. Peter's. Gotta go with the Peacocks in March. They are playing great basketball right now. It's been very fun to see this program kind of continue that momentum they built from that tournament run years ago. But yeah, I think they could win it. We go to the MEAC. Um, Definitely a good list of favorites here. Howard has been looking really, really good, especially down the stretch. Morgan State, kind of the surprise team that's been hanging in the balance here. And then Norfolk State, never can count out Robert Jones's crew. So those are probably the top three. I kind of just had to go with the top three of this one. I know there's a pretty obvious sleeper hanging out with that result. But who do you see as the sleeper pick?
I mean, you got to go with North Carolina Central with Coach Moten and what he's done throughout his time. He's going to have that team ready to go no matter what. Excuse me. But if I go with a team outside of that top four, I'd probably go with it's it's been an odd year, and it always is in the MEAC. But I'll say South Carolina State. They struggled in the non-conference where most of the MEAC does because they have to play up in so many games for money. But in conference play, they've been hovering around 500, and they've beat a couple teams as well. So I could really see them making noise. And I think this is another tournament as well where you tend to see the one seed not win, and anything can happen in the MEAC tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and NC Central is a team that often performs very well in the MEAC tournament. So that was the one that kind of flagged as the obvious one, but definitely South Carolina State, a team that kind of improved as the year went on. So definitely could be a threat as well. But who is your pick to win the MEAC?
I'm going to actually say Morgan State because of how they're peaking at the right time. They've put it together here down the stretch, and that means something. You got to be peaking at the right time, and I think they are. I think Howard's the best team, but I think Morgan State's playing at the highest level.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Obviously, a huge win for Morgan State tonight over Norfolk State. Howard is definitely a team I'm looking at, but you know what? Ultimately, I've got to go with Robert Jones and Norfolk State in March. He has become an expert at winning this conference tournament. Kind of lost a lot of guys to the portal and everything. That's kind of natural. Unfortunately, would like to see that change, but kind of rebuild the team a little bit. Took some tough losses. Kind of were a little bit off from what we're used to seeing from Norfolk State, but then we start to turn the clock to February and March, and here they are. Tonight kind of is a little bit of an outlier, but otherwise they have been playing great basketball down the stretch. And like I said, like he knows how to win this conference tournament. He's won it many times, and I think they could do it again. And ironically, still may somehow get a better draw than last year, where they absolutely should have been a 14 or 15 seed and ended up with a 16 against the national champs. So they made up a better draw this year. We moved to one of the best conferences to talk about. The story of college basketball is in this conference, the MAC. Miami Redhawks still going strong at 29-0 at the time of this recording. And then Akron definitely has to be the other favorite. Is there a sleeper potential spoiler hanging out in the mix here?
I think Kent State certainly has the pieces that it takes to win in March and to win this tournament. I would not be shocked one bit if the Golden Flashes were that team. They have the pedigree, but they have really solid pieces. If I'm going with a team outside of that, I'll say I'll say Toledo because they've kind of gotten hot a little bit here. They've won a handful of games in a row. I know they've kind of underachieved for their standards this year, but they seem to be playing their best ball right now heading.
Yeah, absolutely. Toledo is definitely picking it up down the stretch here. With that team, they're always going to be playing really good offense too. So um, definitely would be a potential pick there. I look at Buffalo as well. I think the Bulls look very strong throughout the year. Their star player, I hope I pronounce it right, Freetag, dealt with some injuries throughout the year. He kind of just came back, still kind of working his way back a little bit, but if he's back fully for this conference tournament, then you might see Buffalo looking a lot more dangerous. Who is your pick to win the match?
It's got to be Miami. It's got to be like the story is amazing, and I know a lot of people are going to talk about that, but we don't need to talk about the story. We need to talk about that this team is a really solid and good basketball team. They're well coached. They play a brand of basketball that is so fun to watch. Um, and you know it. I mean, you've seen it in person. Like these guys, they've gotten down and they fought back in multiple games this year, which is going to mean a ton in March. They have multiple players that they can lean on to be scorers. They have a stud scorer, but they have multiple guys that can do it too. I think it's absolutely ridiculous for anybody to think that this team isn't an NCAA tournament team um, because of the sheer fact that they play in the MAC and they haven't played anybody. Well, I'm a former college head coach. I've had to build schedules. Miami, Ohio was the second to last team to release their schedule this year because they did everything in their power to schedule teams, and nobody would play them because they knew how good they were going to be this year. They were one shot away from the NCAA tournament last year, and they brought a ton of guys back, and they added some really, really good pieces to the team as well. With that said, Akron is really good too. And I know that this league doesn't get a good rap, and I think it's kind of ridiculous because the top of this league this year is really good. I know Akron won't get any consideration for an at-large bid, but I think that they should at least be thought of, and I know they won't. I know that. But this team is a really, really good team. You go 15-1 in your conference, and you're 24-5. Like that's a really, really good team, and they're extremely well coached by John Gross. The top two teams in this league are fantastic basketball teams, and the mainstream media and the casual basketball fans don't realize that.
Yeah, absolutely. This league puts on a show, and they performed well in non-conference too. Multiple wins over the Big 12 from teams that aren't even at the top because a lot of those teams didn't get those shots. We're talking about the middle of the conference winning those games, or even Eastern Michigan, who isn't going to make the conference tournament, beating Cincinnati on the road. I know that Cincinnati, had some players injured or whatever, but at the same time, like it just goes to show that if you don't bring your best, you could still get beat on any given day in the MAC by any team. And the fact that Miami has gone through as long as they have without losing is just very impressive. We don't ever see this. We never see this happen. And the fact that it's happening with a team that didn't hit the portal for more money or anything like that, decided the grass was not greener, stuck around with the same coach and developed and got better. Really should be the story that everyone that loves college basketball the way it has been should absolutely crave. Um, and I'm going to pick them as well. Obviously, now full disclosure, I am a little bit biased on this pick. I know one of the players, Ian Elmer. My wife worked with him in the athletic trainer setting when she was working at Taft High School with him. Definitely just really cool. It's been a really cool ride. Like when even before they were good, like 2 years ago, last year, we would go to his games and she makes some cookies. Like it is amazing to see what this team has become now. Um, and obviously like you build a relationship with these athletes and it is definitely cool to see them succeed. That's the theme of Athletic Trainer Month. Happy Athletic Trainer Month here in March. But yeah, so just very excited for this team and the ride. I'll be there tomorrow, well, Tuesday, the day before this recording, but airs. But gonna see them play Toledo. Definitely gonna be a lot of fun, but definitely a really fun ride that I'm enjoying.
And I'm sure that they won't get this, but they will be drastically underseeded. This team should be a 6 seed. I mean, they if you go undefeated, I don't care what level you're playing at. It is the hardest thing to do, and they've done it in a league that's very, very competitive. So they need to be rewarded. And I don't care about the metrics and the numbers and all this and that because I want to see this team get in and make a run to the Sweet 16, let's say, because of the cohesion that they have, because they've all played together for so long, and because there's just a darn good team too.
Yeah, and this as a former coach and player. Like games are not played on paper, on computers with these metrics or anything like that. Like you actually, like with your coaching eyes and, as a player, watch these guys play. This is one of the best teams in the country.
They are like I've watched them multiple times. I get it. I get it that they don't play in the marquee conference. I get it. But at the end of the day, like no matter what conference you're in, everybody knows your team and knows what you're doing and knows what you're running because you play them twice a year. Or with how big some of these conferences are, that's not the case anymore. But you're used to playing these teams over and over and over again. You know these coaches, and obviously Miami, Ohio, and Akron, these two coaches know each other extremely well. um, but for a whole other reason, obviously. But this is like I said, it's a great story, yes. But people who know basketball and watch this team know that this isn't just a great story. This is a great team.
Yeah. And again, just like how unflappable they are in the last 5 minutes of the game is unreal.
Yes.
They're every single night the target is on their back because right now, like every program that plays them knows they can completely change the image of their program by winning against them. This target has been on their back basically since they beat Akron back in January, which I can't remember when in January, but I know I have my ticket stub over here. Um, Back when I didn't have to buy tickets online, it could just walk up and get a physical ticket stub. That being said, well worth it to hear that place rocking. It's been a lot of fun, um, but yeah. So this conference has been bringing it. They've been getting their toughest, and I think we even saw this a little bit when they did the MAC Sun Belt Challenge. I mean, went at a good Marshall team, but finally, like playing a team that isn't in their conference, that doesn't know them as well, and they blew them out of the water right away.
Yep. A good Marshall team too. That's a team that could go win the Sun Belt. It's not just a average team, and they blew them out of the water at their.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. In front of a sold out crowd. Obviously now, these guys love a sold out crowd. They like to take the noise out of a road crowd, if you will, and obviously love it when it's loud at home. So it's pretty cool to see. Um, that's enough about the team near me. How about we talk about some teams close to you? The Missouri Valley. The favorites here: Belmont, your beloved Bradley Braves, Murray State, and I'm going to go ahead and throw Illinois State in this mix as well. Who do you see as a potential sleeper outside of that?
UIC, because of the athleticism they have. They're an extremely hard matchup for a lot of these teams. They beat Bradley twice. I know ISU struggled, Illinois State struggled with them too. Sorry, I'm going to say ISU because I live here. Illinois State struggled with UIC as well. Makai Lowry went to my high school. He's a good young man, but he's a heck of a athletic specimen too. That's just a really good team with good guard play. And Coach Eason has gotten the most out of that team too. What a job he's done in a short time there. I think Northern Iowa can turn it on too with some of the athletes they have. Valpo's an amazing story as well, but UIC definitely can make.
I'm gonna throw in one that is even a little bit further off the radar here. Southern Illinois. They are very quietly playing a little bit better late in the year. They have a coach in Scott Nagy who has performed ridiculously well in conference tournaments. Got us started at South Dakota State and forever tormented that never made the tournament club by winning the Summit League tournament every year. Then he went to Wright State, won a few conference tournaments there. Now he's at Southern Illinois. So he's the guy that knows how to win this month. So that might be a kind of a sleeper team to watch a little bit.
Scott Nagy is one of my favorite coaches in the country. He has and I implemented this because I stole this from him. He has a system, a point system that he implements for his players on the defensive side of things. It's a really complex thing that I'm not going to try to explain right now. Um, but I implemented it as well with my teams. And because I'm a defensive first coach now, if you would have said that to my coaches, they would have laughed at you because I didn't play defense. But amazing coach. That point system he has is so cool, and I love that, and I utilize that a lot because it got my teams to play at a very high level defensively, which his teams do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool. Kind of a nice little insight there too. Um, who is your pick to win this comp?
Biased, but I'll say Bradley because they beat Belmont. They did. And now, granted, it was at Carver Arena in Peoria, and it's hard to beat a team a second time. But they gave Belmont everything that they could handle in Nashville too. And I think Belmont has obviously at 26-5, they kind of run through the conference pretty well. They're 16-4 in league play. They won the league by 3 games. But this is a league that's super competitive. And I know we've seen the 1 seed win this league, but it's hard to be the 1 seed and win this league. And let's say they had to play Southern Illinois after they beat Drake. That is going to be an extremely difficult matchup for them. They just lost to ISU. Belmont is a team that shoots the ball tremendously well. What if they have a bad shooting night?
Yeah,
It's not likely because of how well they shoot it, but let's say they do. Bradley is a team, on the other hand, yeah, they shoot a lot as well, but they defend extremely well. And I'm not saying Belmont doesn't defend well; they just outscore everybody most of the time. But I trust Brian Wardle and the head coach of Bradley, Quan Johnson, their point guard, who I believe should win the Larry Bird Trophy for the Player of the Year in the conference. He's one of the top 5 in steals in the country, one of the top scorers in the Valley. He's one of the top assist guys. I mean, he's a tremendous player, uh, jitterbug point guard that Bradley always has. This is just it's a solid team, and they're young too. Like they have 4 seniors, but they have a lot of young guys that have really came on at the end of the year and even throughout the season. Like Jaquan Johnson's only a sophomore, but I think this is the year Bradley finally gets through. Back to 2020.
yeah. Definitely a really good team. I consider, man, I mean, neither one of us is going to end up picking Belmont here. I do think there is always a risk of a bad shooting night, especially when you're playing in a neutral, unfamiliar arena. So it's very possible. Illinois State is someone that I like. Another one of those rare teams where they had a lot of guys return. This season didn't really start as expected for them, but they're starting to play really good basketball down the stretch when it matters.
They have all the pieces that it takes. They really do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they were even preseason number one, if I'm
Yep.
remembering
Yep.
correctly.
Yep.
So now, I think late in the year we're seeing them deliver upon that potential. So definitely a team to watch. We move to the Mountain West, one of the more fun conferences to talk about. Favorites in this conference: Utah State, New Mexico, and San Diego State. I would say it's looking pretty likely that we'll see all three of them in the tournament. So who's a potential sleeper slash maybe we're even if we may even go far enough to say a bid stealer here?
Colorado State's won 7 in a row. I know nobody wants to play them. They have all the pieces. They shoot it well, especially recently. Um, and Grand Canyon as well. Nobody wants to play them either. This is a tremendous team. Well coached, obviously, with Coach Drew. Those two teams, I think, can really, really make noise. It wouldn't shock me at all if either of them won the Mountain West tournament.
Yeah, Grand Canyon has really carried a great variability of results. I think it goes, the best way to mention is I think just a week or so ago, they won at San Diego State and then turned around and lost at home to Wyoming. That shows you how all over the place that team is. But if they show up in the Mountain West tournament hot, they could definitely win it. But I got to go with you on this one. Colorado State getting very, very hot down the stretch. And a team that, obviously new coach this year, even though Ali Farokhmesh, obviously a very famous March Madness hero from back in the day. But this team also did very well in March last year. If I'm remembering correctly, I think they won the conference tournament to make the tournament,
Yep.
pulled a 5-12 upset, and then were literally a shot away from the Sweet 16.
Yep. Yep.
So I think they're ready to do it again. That's definitely a team I'm looking at. Let's go with our picks here. Who do you have?
Man, this is one that I go back and forth on. I really do. Just 'cause, like, there's so I feel like so many of these teams could win this conference. I'm gonna go with New Mexico though, just because I feel like they're they give you both. They can score, they defend. Um, that's just my gut feeling with them. Um, Utah State's played well. San Diego State is a team that I love the way they defend at a high level. Um, but I'm going to go New Mexico.
Man, we keep thinking alike. New Mexico was my first gut, but because this Mountain West tournament is too crazy for both of us to pick the same team, I'll go with Utah State. Utah State has been um, definitely the top team in this conference all year. Very impressive team that I think could even go on the run in the NCAA tournament, depending on whether they can avoid that 8-9 line or not. I don't think anyone wants to be in the 8-9 this year. Which the way those teams in that range are losing lately, you can tell they really are trying to avoid it. But yeah, I think Utah State looks like they could be a really good team here. The
Agreed.
NEC. But yeah, next year. Favorites here, Long Island and Central Connecticut State, kind of 1 and 2, kind of separated themselves a little bit. Is there a potential sleeper that can create some really crazy chaos?
Well, Mercyhurst isn't eligible, but they have what it takes to get it done. Um, uh, they have a tremendous guard in Bernie Blade, who's just who can fill it up. He can get hot. So I mean, I'm not going to put it past them. Lemoyne is interesting as well. Just they have some really solid pieces. They have a solid center in Shiloh Jackson. Missed some time this year. Tennessee Rainwater, one of the best names in college basketball.
Yes.
He can make it rain, that's for sure. I mean, he gets started. Um, but neither of those teams are eligible, so it's kind of an interesting quirk here. where if those two teams play for the conference championship, the NEC has said that they will play a separate game between the two teams that would quote, let's just say they lose in the semifinal and we have a Lemoyne Mercyhurst championship, they would then play the two semifinal teams that lost to see who goes to the NCAA tournament because of the worst rule ever that a team transitioning can't make the NCAA tournament. Let's not reward teams for playing up. How about that? Like just get out of the Stone Age NCAA with all the other issues that you have. How about you fix the ones that are just common sense? Um, it just yeah, it baffles me.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me either. Like I can understand, like if you're Saint Francis to not make this tournament, but like if you're Saint Francis moving down,
Yeah,
you probably are going to have advanced for a few years. Maybe they're not eligible, but for moving up, it just does not make sense. It's one of the oldest, most antiquated rules that exists, and the NCAA never seems to be interested in getting rid of those old rules for some reason. It would be a nice little easy, quick win. I'm all for the crazy scenario where you get Mercyhurst first, Lemoyne for the championship, and they have to figure out like which one ESPN's going to broadcast because
right.
technically the semifinal one is the one, and like imagine like if something crazy happens, like Chicago State beats LIU, and all of a sudden they're in position to go to the NCAA tournament. And we've
Chaos.
seen this nonsense. We've seen this nonsense with this conference before. Merrimack won it a few years ago. Fair League tickets and went instead and beat Purdue.
Yep.
Um, so you really just never know what's going to happen here. Who's your pick to win?
LIU's kind of ran through the league, honestly, but I'm going to go with Central Connecticut State because Central Connecticut State the past couple of years has been the favorite, and they've fallen short back-to-back years. And Darren Smith Jr. is the best player in the conference. Every given night, they have the best player in that league stepping on the floor, and he's proved that throughout the year. Young man can fill it up. He had a 40-plus point game this year against New Haven. That young man can play, and they have one of the best point guards in the country too. I believe he's averaging about 7, 8 assists a game. I'm gonna go with CCSU to get it done.
Man, you took exactly what I was thinking. um, yeah, give me the Blue Devils as well. This is the NEC. Things hardly ever go as you would expect. Again, they have been in position in years past to win this conference. Didn't do it. Now this year, when they're playing the underdog role, maybe I think they get it done. Next, we go to the OVC. Narrowing down favorites is really difficult here.
It's impossible.
Tennessee State. I mean, there's a lot of really solid teams in this conference. Like, it's a very solid league. Tennessee State, Morehead State, SEMO, and UT Martin are going to be the teams that put there. Who would you consider a sleeper?
Out of that, I think SIU Edwardsville, they went to the tournament last year. I think that they have everything that it takes to make another run in this tournament. This is another tournament, the OVC tournament, that just every year is chaotic. Um, SIUE has good guard play. They have a 7 footer. They have a little bit of everything that it takes. And Lindenwood's another good team as well. I think the top 6 in this league have really set themselves apart throughout the season. And it would not shock me one bit if any of those 6 teams won at all.
Agreed. Yeah. SIUE is my sleeper as well. They're really a team that I really don't. I think they're playing kind of similar level to where they were last year. It's just the competition around them has really stepped up this year.
Mm-hmm.
So they're definitely a team that I like a lot as well. Who's your pick to win it?
I'm going to go with UT Martin because they're the best team. Um, have they played to that level throughout the year? Not always. They have the European connection, as we've talked about before. I think that these guys play extremely well together. They've kind of struggled at home, which is kind of odd. They have some really good non-conference ones. They beat Bradley at Bradley. I mean, this is a really solid team. but like we said, I mean, anybody could win this. Seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. UT Martin winning would be an awesome story. That would be
Mhm.
their first ever NCAA tournament bid. But I'm going to go with a team that's been there and done it before. The OVC tournament is often chaos, but usually standing on top at the end of all that chaos is Morehead State. I think they get it done. This team is playing very well down the stretch. And again, like they know this program knows how to win a March. There's the year they beat Louisville and all of that. They made a tournament multiple other times. A very, very solid program. I think they get it done.
They've won 7 in a row. Don't put.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, getting hot this time of year, that's a huge key as well. Let's not to overlook SEMO because, Corn, he's done a really good job coaching there. And Tennessee State and the Nolan Smith has been an awesome rise. Tennessee
Mm-hmm.
State making a tournament would be a great story too.
Get them against Duke.
Oh, that would be funny. Although underseeded for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think whoever wins this league probably earned at least a 14 or 15. We go to the Patriot League. Favorites, I'll keep it plural here. Navy is definitely the overall favorite, but Colgate is a team that you never, under Matt Lango, like you can never rule them out as well. So those are the two favorites. Who do you see as a potential sleeper?
Boston University went through a good stretch down here at the end of the regular season where they won. I want to say it was like 9 of 10 or something like that, where they just put a really good stretch of games together. And I don't ever count on American either because I love their coach. Those would be the two for sure for me that I would go with.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I got American this mine. Won this conference tournament last year. They were the ones to finally wrestle this conference away from Colgate's dominating arms for so many years there. Uh, but yeah, American still a very solid program. Kind of just had a rough stretch during the year this year, but I think when it comes to March, like they're a team that can get ready to go and win it. But who is your pick to win the conference
I,
tournament?
I want it to be Navy so bad. I do, just because of the story, and it's so I'm going with them. But for goodness sake, like Colgate just always seems to find a way. And I know you like last year American won, but it's like this Colgate's been in so many close games this year. But I'm going Navy.
Colgate is kind of just that bad mood rising over the conference. Like you just can't, you just can't shake them. But I got to go with Navy as well. I mean, again, like just an absolutely incredible story. I mean, how much fun would it be to see Navy in a tournament for the first time since 1996?
They're 25-6, folks, and they've went 17-1 in the league. So this is a good team.
Yeah, yeah, they're a team like they play very disciplined, solid defense. They're a team that could if you're overlooking them, they're a team that could really be dangerous.
Absolutely. Depending on the matchup, especially. I mean, they could give somebody a real fit.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, that would be so much fun to see. Like
That would be amazing.
Navy winning an NCAA tournament game would be absolutely electric. And I mean, I feel like it's been a long time since we've even seen any service academy in the tournament. I think Navy was probably the last one, to be honest. I feel like it's been longer for Air Force, and I know Army and the Citadel have never made it.
Right. I feel like Air Force in sometime in the 2000s did, but I could be wrong.
Maybe they did. Um, that one, I'm gonna end up getting curious and looking back at that at some point. Um, we moved to the SEC. Do you see any bid stealers hanging out in here?
Could somebody? I mean, you look at this league and it's kind of like what we talked about with the Big Ten, Big 12, ACC. Like you kind of know who's already in. I know that the argument about Auburn, like who they beat in the non-conference and stuff, but they're 6-10 in the league for goodness sake. Do not put them in the tournament. Like they're 15-14. Like every time I see them being even considered, it just blows my mind. I just shake my head. I'm like, look what they've done over the past 2 months for goodness sake. So no, I don't really think there is anybody because I think the rest of it from like Georgia, Texas A&M, Texas, like I think everybody else is already in. So I don't think that there is really anybody that can steal a bid because nobody on the bottom is going to be able to go through the gauntlet of that conference tournament.
Yeah, I agree. Again, like another one of those situations where it's like a big conference and everything. Like, I mean, sure, like maybe you look at Oklahoma and maybe they're a team that's occasionally showing some life down there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if they can get through the whole thing. So who's your pick to win it?
Florida. I mean, they're a wagon right now. I would pick them to go to the Final Four right now with how they're playing. I mean, they've just been, and I know Alabama's on a huge winning streak too, but Florida's just playing at another level right now. Like they just killed Arkansas, like just mantled them. They're a team right now that you kind of look at and I'm like, where is their weakness currently? Obviously it's just so difficult to win back-to-back national titles. But and I'm not saying they will, but it's like everything that they've done recently, why can't they?
Yeah, yeah, and they're the last program to do it too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I have to go with the Gators as well. You know, during the non-conference portion, you know, they took some losses there, kind of took some bumps a little bit. Have absolutely dominated this conference, and I think they are head over heels better than everyone else right now in this league. So I got to go with the Gators as well. We move to the SoCon. This was very difficult. Like I didn't know if I was gonna. It was either gonna be one or four favorites. I ended up going with four. East Tennessee State, Mercer, Wofford, and Samford. Is there another team out there that could be a sleeper?
The hottest team in the conference, Western Carolina, 6 in a row. Not normally a team that is in the running here. So I think it's pretty cool to see them make the noise that they've made this year. And this is a conference that is so competitive too. Like the like
Yeah,
last year, they should have had multiple bids. And I know that that might be controversial, but Chattanooga won the NIT for goodness sake, and they deserve to be in the NCAA tournament. Um, like, this is such a competitive league, but I'm looking at teams that are playing well right now, and I know Western Carolina is technically under 500, um, but they've won some really good games recently against some good teams in that league.
yeah, absolutely. That was something that stuck out to me too. Like very under the radar 6 game win streak there. I'm going to bet on upside with my sleeper pick. Furman is a team that can definitely play at a high level at any given point. You know, they haven't really shown the consistency we want to see from them in conference play. Actually performed better in the non-conference portion they have in the conference portion this year. But Furman is a team that sticks out as potentially a sleeper pick as well.
Mm-hmm.
And who's your pick to win it?
I'm concerned with East Tennessee State with how they finished the season with 2 losses in a row. I'm going to go with Stanford. I know they went to the tournament a couple years ago. Obviously, a different coach this year, but they've just, I feel like they're peaking right now. And I think that's important.
Yeah. And their coach brought Lipscomb to the tournament last year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with Wofford on this one, actually. Wofford goes back to back. Wofford is a great story, too. Like, so much chaos before the season with their coach being
Yeah.
fired in September, I think it was.
Yeah.
And they hired a guy from outside of the program to
Mm-hmm.
come in and establish with these current group of players, and it's worked. They've been playing great basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a team that I noticed has performed well on the road as well. So I'm going to go with Wofford in this one. Now, this conference has been, we talked about this one earlier this year too, the Southland. Very fun and exciting conference. Your favorites, there's a huge degree of separation. Stephen F. Austin and McNeese have been great all year. Who is maybe a potential sleeper hanging out in the midst, though?
I know they lost tonight, but I'm gonna, or maybe they didn't lose tonight. I'd have to look. But New Orleans has played really, really well down the stretch, so I could see them making some noise, just because of how well they've played. UTRGV is another one who's played extremely well down the stretch as well. So I think those two in particular would be the ones that you'd look at and say, yeah, they can.
Yeah, absolutely. UTRGV has been really like is a team that really finished very well down the stretch. You know, middle of the year, something just flipped the switch with that team,
Mm-hmm.
and they started playing really great basketball. You know, they split their games with McNeese, lost to Stephen F. Austin, and otherwise have pretty much run past everyone else they played. So they have been very excellent. I could definitely see the upside of New Orleans too. I mean, now if the whole Southland tournament was on Monday, I would say go ahead and pick New Orleans because they have been
Right.
great on Mondays this year. Defeated in Southland Mondays, beat TCU on a Monday, so they may be able to spring an upset if one of these games is on a Monday. UTRGV is my sleeper overall. Who is your pick to win the conference tournament?
McNeese because they're at home. I think that's the key here.
Yeah,
Um, SFA, Stephen F. Austin lost at home to New Orleans last Monday, actually. Go figure. Uh,
Southland
but
Mondays.
yep, there's nothing better. It's been great. They do a great job, I think, really marketing that and pushing that. I think they do a really good job with it because there's not. I mean, you get the marquee games on ESPN, of course. I think they've done a really good job, like finding the niche for them.
Yeah, and usually there's a good like alternative broadcast at CBS SN when that early ACC game inevitably turns into a blowout.
Right, because Duke's killing someone every time. But yeah, I'm gonna go with McNeese because they're at home. They've won 7 in a row, especially recently. They've just been the team in the league. SFA has done an amazing job this year. 27-4, I believe they are. 20-2 in the league. Like for goodness sake, that's unbelievable. I think that you could, and again, I'm sure it won't happen, but I think you can make the argument that those two teams could potentially be in the tournament. You got 27-4 Stephen F. Austin, and I think 25-5 McNeese. Like man, like what a great job those two teams have done this year. But I'm going McNeese because they're at home.
Yeah, both are really, really awesome teams. I wish we could see both of them in there. Two bit Southland would be so much fun. Yeah, SFA, I love how their defense is. They're tenacious on that side of the ball. But ultimately, I got to ride with the hot hand here. And like you said, this is at home for McNeese. Got to go with them in this one. I think that's definitely a huge advantage they have.
Huge advantage.
Yeah. Which I think that was like a huge, I mean, honestly, like, it's one of those things where it's like, you've given them this advantage, but like the deal the Southland struck with McNeese really saved the conference and it's gotten to the strong place it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Because like for a long time there, it looked like the WAC was about to get all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we'll talk
Well,
about that in a moment, but
now
things
vice
have
versa
flipped.
potentially.
Yeah. But not the WAC. We'll go to the SWAC. Favorites here, I'm going to kind of narrow it down a little bit. Bethune Cookman and Texas Southern. Um, Texas Southern kind of quietly slipped up into that 2 spot recently. Now they still have some deeps. Who do you see as a sleeper here in that giant glob of teams that are hanging below those two?
Right. I'm gonna say Alabama A&M kind of underachieved in conference play, but they had a really for especially for SWAC standards, and I don't mean that as a slight. I really don't. But they had a really good non-conference where they beat beat some teams that the average fan probably wouldn't expect them to beat. So I think they're a team that can turn it on and get it going. A little concerned that they've lost a couple games down the stretch, but still, I think this is a team that has the pieces to get it done.
Yeah, that was actually what gave me the pause on picking them. Very rare interconference move. Alabama A&M took Grambling's coach this past offseason. You don't see that very often. But I'm going to go with Southern as my sleeper pick. The Jaguars are always a program you got to look out for. And I think, they just lost to Bethune-Cookman on Saturday, I think it was, or maybe it was previous Saturday. They're all blending together. But I still think they're a very solid team. And who's your pick to win it?
I'm going to say Texas Southern because of how they finished the season. You hardly ever see the one seed win the SWAC, and it's unfortunate because Bethune Cookman has had a good year. And I think that if they got in, that they could push the one seed that they play. But just something, Texas Southern has that pedigree of getting it done in this tournament. They've done it multiple times, and I could see them doing it.
Yeah, just like Colgate, the Patriot League,
Yep.
Texas Southern is that bad mood that hangs over this conference. Usually, when you see a team like Bethune Cookman have a promising year, here comes Texas Southern coming in and ended up taking it. Which I mean, that was my pick the moment because again, like their little stretch of wins here down the stretch kind of snuck up on me a little bit. Last time I saw like they were kind of towards the middle of the pack, and all of a sudden here they are, number
Yep.
two, and ready to spoil Bethune Cookman's party. Bethune Cookman would be a great story too. That would be their first tournament appearance. But yeah, I think Texas Southern is going to be the team now. We have we have four conferences left. We go to the Summit League. Our favorites here: North Dakota State, who's having an amazing year, and St. Thomas, who is eligible for the tournament for the first time. Who do you see as a potential sleeper here? I think we got some good candidates hanging out there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go maybe a deep sleeper here in Denver. I believe they've defeated North Dakota State recently. Um, this just again, you look at this league; it's always so competitive, and I know that the top teams have kind of set themselves apart a little bit this year. But the middle of the pack has just been very, very competitive. And I know the bottom of this league is really bad this year, with Oral Roberts and Kansas City being very down in both cases. Oral Roberts has won three in a row though. Maybe they could make a run. That'd be probably far fetched because they would win the play in and then have to play North Dakota State. But you never know. But I'm gonna go Denver.
Hey, Oral Roberts is the longest win streak in the conference right now.
That's true.
Yeah, I was cracking up because you said a deep sleeper, and then ended up with the same sleeper I had. I too, I too like Denver. Really, just a team that has turned it on right at the end of the year. I mean, there was those flashes early in the year. I would say actually you could probably award them the Colorado Cup if one existed because I think they beat both Colorado State and Northern Colorado, who also turned around to beat Colorado. So you could award Denver the Colorado Cup if that thing existed. But a really good team on offense. And this would also be very exciting if they could get it done because Denver is one of those longtime members of the Never Made the Tournament Club. But again, like a very solid team, and I think they were the first team to beat North Dakota State, and I believe they did it on the road in
hmm
Fargo.
hmm
Um, but that's not to slight any of these other teams in the Summit League too, like Omaha or anyone like that, because this conference really started out with North Dakota State and St. Thomas really racing away from everyone else, and then kind of down the stretch here, we've kind of seen some other teams like Denver step up, and maybe that produces some chaos in this conference tournament. I don't think we'll get a repeat of Trace and Ingolstaff going for 51 points in the game, though. But who is your
Probably
pick to
true.
win
I'm
it?
gonna I'm gonna say St. Thomas because I feel like it's their time. Obviously, it's their first year eligible. They, they've had some really, really good teams over the past couple years. And like I said, I just think it's their time. I think this is another league where you see a lot of times the one seed doesn't win because this is such a competitive league. I love the guard play St. Thomas has. Something
Yeah,
wrong with that.
yeah. I like that team a lot. I mean, it was hard to pick between the two. I've actually noticed a lot of people trending towards St. Thomas here. And I'm kind of seeing North Dakota State kind of hanging out there as a one seed. They've been playing great basketball pretty much all year. And now it feels like, oddly enough, they're a little bit under the radar. So I'm going to go with the Bison in this one. Corrected myself there. I almost let the S slip a little too much. Here we go. The Gauntlet,
Yeah,
Part 1. The Sun Belt. Just a beautiful, chaotic league where they have the format where basically it starts with the low seats playing and it just progressively goes higher until you get to the end. And the best part is they did this in a year. I mean, they did this last year too, but and I actually think they did this format in reaction to a couple years ago when James Madison was really good. Probably should have been an at-large team.
hmm
Fortunately, they won the conference tournament, but they probably looked at that and went, "Ooh, that was a little bit risky. Maybe we need to
hmm
change this up." I think that's how they got to this format in the first place. But this year, seven teams within a game of each other, a six-way tie for second, to where you have Arkansas State and Marshall with the same record, but Arkansas State has to play like three more games. Just pure chaos. The favorites, I'm just going to go with, some of the teams towards the top. Troy, Marshall, and Appalachian State. But I mean, this is anyone's game. Who do you see as who's sticking out as like your biggest sleeper?
Louisiana's going to win 7 games in 7 days. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. If anybody
ULM.
if anybody ever does that, that would be the greatest feat in the in the history of college athletics.
Oh, it'd be so amazing.
It would. It would be unbelievable. Um, I'm gonna say James Madison as a potential sleeper because they played well down the stretch. Um, they just they were clicking at the right time, and I think that they could surprise a team or two here. Georgia Southern is another one. They just won at Marshall to end the year. Um, with how athletic they are, I wouldn't want to
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the crazy part about this league. Like, if there's going to be a year where someone um, you know, marches their way through the gauntlet. I think this is the year for it to happen, and those two are some great candidates there. James Madison was actually the team I was thinking about for a long time there, and then they lost to Coastal Carolina to finish out the year. That kind of brought my attention to the shots a little bit. I think Coastal Carolina could potentially be that sleeper team. I think the draw favors them too.
play.
It kind of didn't feel like they were the four team. They kind of just snuck in there and ended up the four seed. Um, but not only do they only have to play one more game than the top two, but if they win, they're set to play Marshall, a team they've beaten twice. So I think that plays in their favor as well.
And that's why I think they're going to win the Sun. I really do
Oh,
because
there we
I
go.
I think that their guard play is tremendous. They have two guards that they can give the ball to at any point, and those guys can go get a bucket. And when you have multiple guys that you can do that with in March in a conference like the Sun Belt, that sets you apart a little bit. And I know, like you said, they kind of snuck their way into the top four seeds a little bit. They flew under the radar this year. I mean, for them to be 19 and 12, I think is a little surprising to a lot of people. Getting that, I think that them playing an extra game ahead of Marshall, I think is very important because I mean we all know. I mean I'm coach player. Having that much time off between games is so difficult that like I understand why the conference does it, but I think it hurts them though too because it's like okay, you're gonna have Troy, who I think we kind of agree is probably the best team in the league, but you could debate it obviously with how close these teams have been. But like they're gonna have like over a week off between games, so it's like that's not like I get why the conference is doing it, but at the same time, like that's almost a hindrance to those teams too.
Yeah, potentially. And you mentioned Troy. Last year, Troy was on that. I can't remember exactly which one, but they were on that 3-4 line.
Hmm.
Ended up winning the conference tournament. The two teams that got a bye lost. Um, I do think Troy is the team with the highest upside. They showed that in the non-conference. Maybe one of the more dangerous teams if they can make the tournament. But I'm going to go with Appalachian State, another team in that 3-4 line. I really like the Mountaineers and what they have done. They lost to Texas State there on the road, but that has happened to a lot of Sun Belt teams this year. Texas State was very good at home, not so much on the road. So you take that loss. It is what it is. Appalachian State still got a 3, and I think that plays out really well for them. I think they win it.
I love their big man, not just because his last name is Wilson like me, but because I like him. He looks huge on TV when you see him, and then he's 6'9", but
Yeah.
he looks like not a play on words here, but he looks like a mountain on the floor. Like he is just a massive man, and he's very good.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, at one point, I saw a bracket projection show up that was absolutely diabolical. It had Appalachian State versus Michigan in the first round.
Oh
Um,
no,
I,
I was
I
at that
don't,
game. I was at that game.
man, you've seen some crazy upsets in
That,
person.
that
And
was
NIU over Notre Dame as well.
yeah. That was a recruiting visit for me.
Crazy. But needless to say, though, I think the Sun Belt's a little too good to put their team in the 16 line. I don't know
Yeah,
who put that projection out there, but it was very funny.
there was no clickbait involved in that. I'm sure.
None at all. None at all, I'm sure. Um, we go to the gauntlet part two. Um, Favorites, pretty obvious. This is usual for the West Coast Conference. Gonzaga and St. Mary's are the very clear favorites. On that 1 and 2 line there with the super bye, and I easily the two best. I mean, maybe not easily. I want to give Santa Clara some credit, but Gonzaga and St. Mary's have dominated this conference tournament for many years now. So they definitely stand apart as the favorites. Santa Clara will hopefully make the tournament as well.
I
Who do
hope
you
so.
look at as a potential? Yeah, they haven't made it since 1996. I really would love to see them make it. Get them in there, guys. Let's get it
Hmm.
happen.
My sleeper definitely is Seattle U. Their guard play is great. When those guys are hitting their shots, this is a team that is hard to beat. And this has kind of been a slow build for them. Like they won the CBI a handful of years ago, and now that's their first year in the WCC, and they kind of struggled at the beginning because they made them play all the top teams right away. But at the same time, like this is a really good basketball team. They have 19 wins. They've won 3 in a row down the stretch. Trust me, nobody wants to play this team. Nobody.
Yeah, and I think potentially maybe this is where going through the gauntlet might be an advantage. They get some time to get their shots down and then just continue to build up as they go through it. I don't think they're on the Gonzaga side of the bracket either, which could help.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely a team to watch there. It's the one I had my eyes on. But I'm going to go with Oregon State just because Wayne Tinkle is already out, but he's going to coach the team down the stretch. The guys can play from, and he's done this before. He's gone in crazy tournament runs before with this team. Back in 2021, they won the Pac-12 out of nowhere, and then went on one of the most random, forgotten Elite Eight runs of all
Yep.
time. um, so I think it's possible. Like watch for that potentially to happen again. It's definitely not impossible. But for the pick, who are you going with to win it?
Well, first, I'm going to say, as a former coach, like, what is Oregon State thinking? Like, you're not going to get a better coach than Wayne Tinkle. Like, I understand that things might be a little stagnant, but it's like you're not going to get a better coach. Like, it just, I don't understand that. To win, I'm going to say Gonzaga, of course. They just, I mean, look at the roster. I mean, and that's no slight against St. Mary's. But I think Gonzaga is going to be extremely motivated. One, they just lost to St. Mary's. This is their last WCC tournament, and I think they want to go make a statement, and I think they will. I think that they're going to be. I think they're going to be out for blood in this. I really.
Yeah. And again, like Gonzaga rarely does not win this conference tournament. It would definitely be surprising if they lost it in their last go around. So I've got Gonzaga as well.
Mm-hmm.
It is so difficult to pick against them.
Right.
But we close this out with a conference that we will soon say goodbye to in its current form, the WAC. Thanks for the memories, WAC. We will miss you. The favorites for this conference, I put Utah Valley, question mark, and Cal Baptist. Utah Valley gets the question mark because of that whole Ligo mumbo jumbo that stands out there. Um, who do you think could be a sleeper in this very small conference?
I mean, out of the not having the top two mentioned, Utah Tech can shoot it, so they can catch
Yeah,
fire. I think that that's a team that, like, if they're hot, you don't want to play them. But if I'm not going to say them, I'll say UT Arlington just because I love their coach and I like their guard play. So I'll say them. But man, Utah Tech, the way they can shoot the ball, holy smokes! You don't want to play them on a night when they're hit.
yeah, and it's been awesome to kind of see their rise because
Mm-hmm.
they struggled for a few years there, and all of a sudden this year they are having an excellent year. It would be an awesome story if they won it. UT Arlington was a team that I had my eyes on for a lot of the year, but kind of struggling down the stretch a little bit. So Utah Tech is my sleeper there, but who's your pick to win it?
Absolutely, Cal Baptist because of Dominique Daniels.
Yeah,
That kid is a special talent. He's the type of player that can get a team in March to do something special because he's an absolute bucket every time he steps on the floor. He's going to get 20 to 25 points every time he steps on the floor. I watched a game earlier this year. It might even have been against Utah Valley where he had like 40, 40,
47,
40. Yes, that. Yes,
47 points.
yes. That kid is special, and he's little, but he just finds spots. And I don't know what his pro future looks like, but man, this kid is a bucket getter, and he's just one of those kids in March Madness that you could just see. If I put this tweet out there. I think it was after that game too. It was like in January or early February or something. I'm like, nobody wants to play this team because of that kid, because
Yeah,
he's just a guy that you just give the ball to, and as a coach, you just get out of the way because he just does special things.
yeah. And in March, sometimes like we have a team that does that, where one kid just like can absolutely light it up and cause problems for a higher seed, and he definitely is the perfect candidate for that. You know, I was gonna say like in terms of someone that did it like in the regular season, I don't know if we've seen anyone do that since maybe Max Asmus or Oral Roberts
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
back in like 2021. I think that's the last time we really saw that. Last year, we saw a lot of teams where they hung in there, but then when it came down to the end, like a lot of the mid majors just could not get that shot to win the game. Oh, Baptist wanted the problem. They know who they're going to, and they know if they could get him even a little of space, he will make it.
This is
So they're actually
he's a
my pick.
guy. He's a guy that should be considered as an All American. And I'm not saying like first team All American because I understand he plays at Cal Baptist. But this is a kid who absolutely should be like third team All American because he is so good.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Like he is so under the radar. I'm glad that we're talking about him here because he is a tremendous player, and again, like just someone that is absolutely lethal at any given time. Yeah, Cal Baptist is my pick as well for the exact same reason. So we agree on this one to kind of close it out a little bit. Man, definitely was a lot of fun. Went through, I can't remember how many conferences we have in college basketball now, 31 or 32. Um, Walked through all of them. You're getting ready to, make conference tournament bracket pool picks or anything like that. Definitely know where to look now. Thank you for tuning in. Bobby, where can the people find you?
As always, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. And everybody can follow me, my college football podcast at TNT College Foot One on Twitter, X, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everything. Always talking college football and everything going on there. But you can also follow me personally at Coach underscore B Will, where I post more basketball related things. My beloved Detroit Lions and Detroit Pistons. I'll talk about that on there too. Share a lot of my faith as well because that's the most important thing to me. But yeah, I obviously from the football side do a lot of work there. But I think as people could tell after us talking for a while here, basketball is important to me.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on and dropping your knowledge. Yeah, definitely was a fun show. And I was also stay tuned because we will be back at it again, breaking down. This is March Madness Part One, the conference tournaments. We will be back again 2 weeks time, breaking down the NCAA tournament. Can't wait.
Absolutely, can't wait.
Be sure to follow us as well at Updog Sports Talk on all social media platforms. We are also on YouTube, and we have made a greater emphasis of the podcast portion. So episodes will be coming out very routinely and on time on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everything like that. You'll even see this episode airing on those platforms at the same time as it goes live on YouTube. So that is very exciting and exciting upgrade for us here. So be sure to like and subscribe. I think on Apple, you even can leave a rating. So please leave us a 5-star rating. We would greatly appreciate it. Continue to talk about college sports in every single facet, every single team that's out there. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful time. Enjoy March.